This is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Update with Tom Sullivan, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of the U.S. Chamber Small Business Update right here at ASBN.com. The holiday season is a critical time for small business owners, even though inflation and other challenges are out there. While Q4 confidence has dipped slightly, signs of resilience remain. So today we are joined by Tom Sullivan. You've seen him here before in ASBN. He's the Senior Vice President of Small Business Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce to review the latest MetLife and U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Index. So Tom, thank you so much for taking the time on your busy schedule there in D.C., fighting the good fight for small business owners every day at the Chamber. And let's jump right into it. The Q4 2025 index score is 68.4, down from last quarter's of 72. We're going in the wrong direction, but what say you about this?
Well, Jim, thank you for having me on your show, and thank you for fighting the fight from where you are. It's great to work together to advance the interests of small business. So good news, bad news. Okay. I'll start with the bad news first, and that is our Q4 index. And as you know, we work with MetLife to survey small businesses every quarter. We represent about 3 million businesses around the world, and so it's a little hard to pick up the phone and ask them how they're doing, so we survey them every quarter.
That's great.
And this quarter, they're saying that their confidence is down a little bit, and let me explain why. We see the dip primarily in their comfort with cash and also their plans to reinvest, which actually is the one that concerns me the most.
Okay.
I think this is a classic case of resiliency versus uncertainty. And unfortunately, the time where this survey was out in the field was right in the middle of the government shutdown. So if you look at that battle of resiliency versus uncertainty, at the time, I think uncertainty was front and center on a lot of small businesses' minds, and that's partially the explanation of the dip in confidence. Right. Now, the good news is that small businesses continue to want to hire up. We actually saw 91% of small businesses either want to keep the same staff size or add employees in the next 12 months. So that's huge.
Yeah.
So why are they pausing on reinvesting and growing their business? It's because of uncertainty, whether it's tariffs, government shutdown, interest rates. There's a lot of headwinds that small businesses are trying to figure out. Right. And so they're a little reluctant to opening up their pocketbooks or their wallets and saying, let's build that new facility. Yeah. But we're hoping that the signs of optimism that happened after the government shutdown and after this survey, we're hoping that reignite the ability of small businesses to grow.
Yeah, for sure. Inflation continues to be a concern, but now we're seeing employee retention at the top of the list as well. 17% of small businesses say employee retention is a challenge, up 12% a year ago. Or I should say up from 12% a year ago. Talk to us about that.
Well, we like to try to think that these are all separate swim lanes. Inflation is in one swim lane, employee costs are in another swim lane. But you and I know, after working so long with small business owners, they're actually kind of mixed together. Yeah. So the more valuable the employee, the more expensive they are. And so those two numbers, the rise in the importance of retaining the best employees, as well as the continued high concerns of inflation, they're actually the same thing. And I'm glad that you really pointed out that employee retention number, because that actually is a positive on a number of levels. First of all, it shows what you and I know is the biggest asset for every small business owner out there who employs people. Their most valuable asset is their employees. It's their team. And we're talking about small business. So a 5-person business, one of those employees is 20% of their workforce. So that's no surprise. But seeing how much they value retaining those employees and seeing that at the highest level ever is actually very encouraging, because that means that they're really focused in on what will keep that employee as part of their team.
That's right. That's right. And we're also seeing on the positive side, you get employees now that are actually opening up, whether it be a side hustle, that they leave their full-time gig to now further their side hustle into a full-blown company and hire employees and have an office, or maybe still work remotely or what have you. But we're seeing a lot of people. We're seeing a lot of those entrepreneurs, or the single entrepreneur out there that either is making the same or more money, doing their side hustle, so to speak, which is now a business, right?
Yeah, well, Jim, you and I were together for really one of the most remarkable evenings of the year.
Yeah,
and that's
for
where
sure.
we announced the top small business of the year.
Yeah.
You may remember that the gentleman who runs an auto repair shop up in Maryland,
Yep.
his most proud moments are when some of his employees have started their own mechanic businesses
Yeah.
on their own. And so hearing that from his words
Yeah.
actually validate your impression of how wonderful it is that the employees then go and start their own businesses because of the value that they see it does for their community.
That's right. That's right, for sure. Many are feeling, the pressure to end the year successfully. Everybody's trying to get every last dollar that they can in before the turn of the new year. What strategies can help reduce that stress that a lot of small business owners have and still achieve their business goals?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the stress, because I think this year it's heightened,
Yeah.
not just for the folks selling holiday gifts, but businesses in the service industry that are in a business to business mode, and they've got to close strong in their fourth quarter. We're seeing that the roller coaster of this year in revenues actually has made this fourth quarter, the holiday season, more important really than ever in recent history. So
Yeah.
I think the stress is real, and we see
Yeah.
that in the numbers. As far as the how-to, the small business owners tell me that their attention to their cash flow on a daily basis is what makes them successful week after week, month after month. I mean, when you and I first started working together, small business owners were looking at that cash flow on a weekly or monthly basis, sometimes even just a quarterly basis.
Yeah.
That's no longer the case. The most successful are the business owners that are poring over those data on a day-to-day basis, knowing where they've got to prioritize, where they can ease up a little bit in order to turn a profit at the end of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely managing that way closer than ever before. Despite lower revenue expectations in 2025, and there's an uptick in seasonal hiring and charitable giving. What did these trends tell you about the priorities of small businesses?
Well, you and I espouse the spirit of small business every time we get together,
Sure.
and it's nice to see the data back that up. I mean, to see that not only are small businesses hiring up seasonal employees and hopefully finding willing employees to actually show up, but that data support how much they care about their communities and giving charitably. I mean, we know it in our hearts, but to see that in data is validating. And so it rings true that sense of community small businesses have really shines in the holiday season.
Yeah, for sure. We had Kelly Loeffler, who, as you know, is the head of the SBA, in our studios just last week. And, she talked about the fact that they're processing literally hundreds of millions of dollars in loans and underwriting them for small businesses across the nation ever since the government reopened. As you know, there was a backlog. I think she mentioned like $500 million a week or some crazy number that has been an all-time high, and they're working diligently to get those loans approved and get them out to small business owners. And she did mention that some didn't even quite make it because of the 40-day plus, shutdown. And they were, small business owners are right on the verge, right on the cusp. She said it's very unfortunate. There were some that, got approval, a verbal approval. Yep, you're approved. And then the government shut down, and it was like, we can't get these done. But boy, it's open for business. And she said, if you're thinking about opening up a small business right now and you're looking for money, we have it. We can help you at the SBA. And I know it's something you and I have talked about before. So in spite of all of this, and I've already asked you this question before, so you know it's coming, but just in case there's some new viewers to our show, is now a good time to open up a small business?
So Jim, once again, the answer is yes.
Yeah, I agree.
For two reasons. I think the first is when we look at that battle of uncertainty versus resiliency, I'm seeing resiliency really make up lost time, similar to the way that SBA Administrator Loeffler is making up for lost time after she got punched in the gut by the government shutdown. I mean,
that's right.
I just can't imagine being a small business owner jumping through all those hoops to get an SBA loan from their local bank.
Can you imagine?
And then all of a sudden it stalled because we can't get our act together here in Washington, D.C. But if Kelly Loeffler can bounce back, obviously small businesses can too. So I think the resilience is on the rise, and it's going to overtake uncertainty. I think the second reason, though, which is a little bit different, is that, the uncertainty that we're living in and the speed at which technology is helping small businesses, it's creating kind of this crazy environment where you really have to be a first mover to capitalize on some of the things going on. There are no better first movers in the world than American entrepreneurs. And for that reason, I think I would put my bets on the American entrepreneur.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Tom Sullivan, the Senior Vice President of Small Business Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Folks, if you're not a member of your local Chamber of Commerce, what are you doing? What are you thinking? I mean, that can be the gateway to not just a whole bunch of knowledge of people that are willing to help you run your business, but also a whole bunch of networking. And your next deal might come from an event that's at your local Chamber of Commerce. And certainly become a member of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. These folks are, as I said in the beginning, fighting the good fight for you in D.C. every single day. And God knows there's big business out there, but 99% of the country is small business, and we need that voice, and that's the U.S. Chamber. So, Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Jim, thank you. Happy holidays. We love you, and we love our local chambers of commerce.
That's right. Well, we love you too. So we appreciate all the great shows. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Update with Tom Sullivan.